Hello, I'm Kate Eden, and this is Laurel Eden from Eden Consultancy Services. We've been talking about obesity today, and we were thinking about just basically all of us have got a lack of mindfulness or some bad eating habits that we've gotten into. And so, for example, I'll go into the cafe and I don't usually eat sweet things, and I find myself ordering a cheesecake and eating it, and then I finish it, and then I feel sick. And that's not really what I wanted, and I regret it. Tell me a bit more about how I can just be a bit mindful about my eating choices, though.
Well, I think if you've had a long history of difficulty with perception and with reality, which a lot of people who've got an obese problem have done, and other people as well, then developing mindfulness you more or less have to start in kindergarten. So that's a good example, and it's a fairly easy one to do. There's probably 4 questions that you could ask yourself, and you could just do it as an exercise. And in other words, when you look at that cake in the shop window, there's am, am I wanting it because of the way it looks? And you have to admit that people do display things very, very attractively. Does it look good? B, do I want it for the taste? Do I want it for the taste? C, do I really need food? Am I hungry? Do I need food? If I do, is this the food that I require in order to drive me through the afternoon when I've got a fair amount of work to do? And the fourth one is, do I need to eat at all? So they're probably the 4 questions that you could ask yourself. And by all means, buy it. I don't have a problem with anybody doing anything. By all means, buy it and have it and eat a whole lot of it. But just ask yourself those 4 questions. In other words, I don't have to stop. I don't have to not buy it. I don't have to not have it. I just have to ask myself those 4 questions.
I think one of the key things when you first told me this that I realized was that I didn't actually really know whether I was hungry or not, because we don't actually really get starving hungry in our society. And there were two elements of hunger. One for me is low blood sugar, um, which doesn't necessarily, I don't necessarily feel hungry in my tummy, but I've learned when my blood sugar is low. And then the other one is the sort of rumbling in the tummy. And the thing is we don't put up with a lot of that before we think we're hungry, whereas actually you can get quite hungry before you're hungry. So the first thing to become aware of is hunger. The other thing is, how does that feel when it hits your tummy? So we're often just eating the thing and we're enjoying the cake and yum, 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 yum. And then we don't actually notice what is happening with our body because the pancreas starts to have a fit when it gets flooded with sugar and the stomach goes, ugh. And there's that feeling of yuckiness. So a couple of ways of cultivating mindfulness is just stopping and going, how hungry am I actually? What does my tummy feel like? And then when you eat something, feeling it slide down and hit your tummy and how your body reacts. And then so when you're looking at that thing going, do I want that? Then imagining how's that going to feel when it hits my tummy? The other thing that you told me about is to go on from this mindfulness is then what do I want? I'm hungry. Do I want something crunchy, salty, sweet, creamy, tart? And you don't want all of those things together. And so if you want something crunchy, you could have chippies or you could have a carrot. If you want something a bit sweet, does it have to be creamy as well? So actually going, what do I really want and how does that feel in my tummy?
But the funny thing about that, and I've asked myself those questions from time to time, but I've been quite sad when I got to the end and realised I didn't want any of it. I've actually been quite sad. I've talked myself out of it. Actually, I didn't want any of it. What a pity.
And this is where you've been really helpful with me is that I didn't realize that I was just having something to eat when I went to the cafe because it was a habit and I was treating myself and it was nice. And I'm sorry to not do the business in the cafes, but generally I actually don't really want something to eat. And I've just broken myself of the habit and also thinking of food as a treat. Because that's quite a dangerous path. So I think, well, if I want to treat myself, are there other ways to treat myself? And of course, I'll still buy a piece of cake in the cafe if I want to, and I really, really have to want to.
one thing just to finish. Yesterday, you and I disagreed about whether or not to have regular times for meals, and I came home and I thought, no, I still want my regular 3 meals. Now, why is that? Whereas Kate was saying, I'm going to try and only eat when I'm hungry. Well, it's partly because I'm not terribly interested in food any longer, but I also need nutrition because I'm fairly active, and I'm more likely, if I stop and think about cooking, to cook something decent rather than to have something like vaguely when I feel hungry. Uh, so, in other words, I'll take an interest in food 3 times a day, and in between, I can't be bothered. Now, if I allowed myself not to do that, I'm pretty sure I'd finish up by eating crap because I'd suddenly feel hungry. But you're not the same as me, so
And the difference is that I really love cooking. So something that I think about food and cooking, and I'd be more than happy to go hungry for a while to make myself something nice. You're not that interested, and so you're much more in danger of just
yeah,
snacking on unhealthy things throughout the day.
or losing energy.
And so it's better for you to have regular meal times.